You are not stuck because life is too heavy. You are stuck because part of you is still loyal to the version of you that survived by staying small. Until that man dies, the man you keep praying to become will never have room to breathe. Not because you are weak, because you are divided. One part of you says, I want a different life. But another part keeps protecting the same habits, excuses, people, and identity that built the life you are trying to escape. That is why some men can listen to advice for years and still not change. They do not need more information. They need a funeral. There are things inside you that cannot be improved. They have to die. Not managed, not negotiated with, not dressed up with better language. Buried. And the first thing that has to die is the need to look like a good man instead of becoming a real one. You know this version of yourself. He says yes when he means no. He stays quiet when something crosses the line. He acts calm, not because he has peace, but because he is terrified of being judged. He wants everyone to see him as patient, understanding, loyal, mature. But inside he is resentful, tired, angry at people he keeps pretending he is not angry with. And because he never tells the truth, his life becomes one long performance. He is not leading, he is managing his image. That man gets praised by people who benefit from his silence. They call him nice, they call him dependable, they call him easy to deal with. But what they really mean is, you are convenient. A real man does not need to prove he is good to everyone. He needs to become honest enough to be trusted by himself. You are not here to be everyone's emotional furniture. You are here to become a man with a spine. The mask has to die. The second thing that has to die is the need to rescue people who do not want to change. A lot of men confuse being needed with being valuable. But that is not love. That is a wound wearing a hero costume. You keep helping people who keep choosing the same fire, and then you wonder why you have no strength left to build your own life. Listen carefully. Every time you rescue someone from consequences they refuse to learn from, you volunteer to become the consequence. You become the unpaid bill. You become the emotional trash can. You become the man they run to when life hurts, but never the man they respect enough to listen to before it hurts. And you call it loyalty. No. Sometimes it is fear. Fear that if you stop being useful, you will stop being loved. Fear that if you let them struggle, you are selfish. Fear that if you choose your future, you are abandoning people. But a man cannot rebuild his life while donating his nervous system to chaos. There is a difference between compassion and self-erasure. Compassion says, I care about you. Self-erasure says, I will bleed so you never have to grow. You are allowed to love people and still let them carry their own weight. You are allowed to care without becoming the crutch. Because some people are not asking for help. They are asking for access. Access to your time, your energy. The version of you that does not know how to walk away. That version has to die. The third thing that has to die is your addiction to being understood. Think about how much life you have spent explaining yourself. Long texts, silent arguments in your head, replaying conversations, trying to find the perfect words so someone will finally see your heart clearly. You keep thinking, if I can just explain it right, they will understand. But some people do not misunderstand you because the explanation is missing. They misunderstand you because understanding you would require them to stop benefiting from the old version of you. That is why you exhaust yourself. You keep putting your truth on trial in front of people who already chose their verdict. A man who needs everyone to understand him will always be controlled by the people who refuse to. They can pull him back into defense. They can make him over-explain. They can make him question his own reality. At some point, you stop arguing your identity and start living it. Let your routine explain you. Let your consistency explain you. Let your silence explain you. Let the results of your rebuilt life say what your mouth could never make them hear. You do not need a public announcement every time you change. You do not need approval before you become disciplined. And you do not need the people who liked you weak to clap when you become strong. Some will say you changed. Some will say you think you are better now. Some will say you are acting different. The old you will want to run back and explain. Do not. Just keep walking. A man who trusts himself does not need every person to agree with his direction. He knows where he is going, even if he has to go misunderstood. The fourth thing that has to die is the fantasy version of people you keep protecting. This one hurts because it asks you to grieve someone who is still alive. The friend who could have been loyal, the woman who could have loved you right, the family member who could have apologized. You keep seeing potential and calling it reality. You keep saying, they are not really like that, but they keep showing you they are. You keep making excuses because the truth would force you to choose, and choosing would hurt. So you keep living with the imaginary version of them, the one who finally understands, the one who finally respects your boundaries, the one who finally changes, the one who finally admits what they did. But the real person is standing right in front of you, not in your hope, not in your memory, not in the small good moments you keep using as evidence, in their patterns. Believe the pattern. A man loses years when he falls in love with potential. He stays in rooms where his future gets smaller. He protects connections that keep him emotionally hungry. He calls it patience, but sometimes it is fear of starting over. This is where rebuilding gets brutal. Because becoming stronger does not always mean adding more discipline. Sometimes it means subtracting access. It means accepting that some people were part of your survival season, not your future. It means realizing that loyalty without discernment becomes self-betrayal. You can forgive someone and still stop handing them the keys to your peace. You can love someone and still admit they are not safe for the man you are becoming. But the fantasy has to die, because you cannot build a real life while negotiating with imaginary people. The fifth thing that has to die is the identity of the wounded man. This is the hardest one, because it once protected you. The wounded identity gave you language for what happened. For a season, naming the wound was necessary. But if you are not careful, the story that helped you understand your pain becomes the cage that keeps you loyal to it. You start introducing yourself to life through what hurt you. You filter every opportunity through what happened before. You explain every bad habit with a scar. And nobody can say that without sounding cruel. So let me say it carefully. What happened to you may not be your fault, but the man you become from here is still your responsibility. That sentence will either offend the part of you that wants permission to stay broken, or it will wake up the part of you that is tired of using pain as an address. You were hurt, overlooked, betrayed, embarrassed. You lost years. You made mistakes that still visit you at night. But you are not required to spend the rest of your life proving the wound was real. It was real. Now what? That question separates men who talk about healing from men who actually rebuild. Now what? What time do you wake up? What do you do when nobody checks on you? What do you do with your anger? What promise do you keep when motivation disappears? Responsibility is not a motivational quote. It is the moment you stop waiting for your past to become fair before you start building your future. That is where the new man begins. Not in a perfect morning, not in a dramatic breakthrough, not when everyone apologizes. He begins the moment you tell the truth and still choose the next right action. So here is the execution. Tonight, do not try to fix your whole life. Choose one thing that has to die. One mask you will stop wearing. One person you will stop rescuing. One explanation you will stop giving. One fantasy you will stop protecting. One old wound you will stop using as your name. Write it down, not as a wish, as a burial notice. Say, this version of me does not come with me. Then prove it with one decision tomorrow morning. Not a speech, a decision. Wake up when you said you would. Do the workout, make the call. Stop answering the person who only respects your availability. Sit with the discomfort without running back to the old identity. That is how men are rebuilt. Not by pretending the past did not happen, not by acting fearless, not by becoming hard and empty, but by letting the false versions die until only the real one is left standing. The mask dies, the rescuer dies, the desperate explainer dies, the fantasy dies, the wounded identity dies, and then something quiet happens. You stop begging life to change while protecting the man who keeps choosing the same patterns. You stop calling survival your personality. You stop asking for a new life while refusing to bury the old one. And for the first time in years, you can breathe. Because the man you were meant to become was not missing. He was buried under everything you were afraid to release. So let it die. Let the weak loyalties die. Let the old excuses die. Let the need to be understood die. Let the version of you that keeps crawling back to familiar pain die. Your future does not need a polished version of the old you. It needs a man willing to lose what is killing him. If that stirred something in you, do not ignore it. Comment the words, "Bury the old man," not for the algorithm, for accountability. Because some decisions need a witness. And if you are ready to rebuild, subscribe to Rewired Reality. This is where men stop waiting. This is where men tell the truth. This is where the old man dies and the real one finally stands up.